Hello, trading has closed on Friday, June 13th, 2025. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer, go over our calls, and make our predictions. It's my trading plan for Monday. Monday is June 16th, 2025. Remember, it's just a plan. I can change my plan. My plan can be wrong, and trade at your own risk. Look for the pattern today with the early low, which is this, and Monday's pattern should have the early high. I said I'd be surprised if we didn't gap down smartly. That turned out to be an understatement. Let's just review what we said. Let's review what we said. These are my calls for next week's patterns. The market's closed on the 19th for the Juneteenth holiday. Tomorrow is a Carolan F19 date. It's a possible change in trend date with a 3-day leeway. Well, MEJT says this drop isn't going to stick. Gives us a target of 6,012.44, and unless we gap down smartly, that's my call, much higher than we are now. Well, we topped right at tomorrow's date for a 9.13.9 top. This was also Carolan's date for, I think it was F something or other. So all this seemed to work. And what I thought we would see is like a big impulsive drop. I'm just not seeing it. One thing I want to see, it's not one of DeMarc's rules, but I want to see us at least overlap and preferably undercut bar number 8 of countdown by this time. I mean, it just hasn't happened. We closed over that. Now, time doesn't run out until Monday, but when it takes this long to make this pan out, it increases the chances we're going to correct this condition, not in terms of price, but rather in terms of time. So this is my call for Monday, unless we gap down sharply and hold it. Now we gap down, hit a lower low, closed over all the lows. That's a bullish pattern. Now time runs out when Monday's open. We open down here, all that bullishness goes away. But as of right now, we couldn't hold on to that. Also, this is a wall with gap pattern. That's an unstable pattern. These things fill at some time, and usually they fill pretty quickly. Usually a wall with gap pattern is going to fill by the next day, which would be filled by Monday's close, although Tuesday's open can substitute for Monday's close. So not every time, but most of the time, we're going to fill this pretty fast. If it doesn't fill pretty fast, it doesn't have to fill anytime soon. But that's an unstable pattern. These drops don't stick. Here's what happened overnight. There was this huge drop of the news event. Drops on news events are not to be trusted. In general, they reverse promptly and completely. It doesn't always work, but in general, all this drop is going to be recovered, and recovered fast. Now, I have a pretty good count for 1, a pretty good count for 2. I tried to count this as a 3, I just can't make it work. So if this is right, we're probably still in a third wave higher, meaning corrections aren't going to amount to much. I don't know how to count that third wave, but I have a good idea how to count the move from Wednesday's high. I mean, that's an A, and that's a B, and that's a C, and the fibs work. And don't forget, we have a Caroline turn date. That's what we showed. And I'm not into cycles very much, but the cycles are having a turn date too. Here's a diamond on stilts pattern. It doesn't have to go to completion, but it often will. And this at least opens the door. If we don't gap down and we have a target up here, we could have a stilt-like move higher on Monday. It's entirely possible, especially if there's some news event of some kind that could happen. As far as I'm concerned, all these panicked sellers here in the news event are trapped. We came nowhere near these lows. At some point, they're going to have to cover. I think all these early sellers here are trapped. We had all day on a Friday to add to this. We couldn't do it. We didn't go anywhere after the early sell-off. And it's very hard to recover sell-offs like this on the Friday, particularly if you're in a bear phase. People just don't want to stand in front of moves like this. So unless we erase this Monday by gapping down here, the conclusion is we're probably not in the bear phase. The conclusion is Caroline's date might have worked here and also might work here. Well, Monday's pattern has the early high regardless of where we open. Typically it's a bearish day with a final hour low, but if it's strong, we should see more strength. There's a higher target unless we gap down smartly. The rules call for it to print. We gap down, hit a lower low, but closed over intraday lows, and if that's maintained at the open, it should lead to higher prices printing regardless of how we close. It's particularly difficult to recover prior lows on a Friday, so the odds are this recovery is going to be maintained. The sell-off on a news event tends to reverse promptly and completely, and the wall with gap pattern tends to fill at some time, usually by Monday's close or Tuesday's open. I just can't count this rally as complete, and unless we maintain a gap down Monday, there's a good chance this whole recent decline is going to reverse completely. Bears had a chance to make something out of this. As of right now, they haven't been able to do it. This is a hallmark of panic selling overnight and in the first hour of trading, which won't stick. And it comes at a time which Caroline's work shows could be a low of significance. And it comes at a time when we have higher targets. Bears haven't thrown in a towel yet. They can still gap down here and make me look silly. It can happen. But as of right now, there's a good chance we're going to trade higher with a very good chance we gap up smartly and form a right stilt, even though it isn't a requirement. It's the pattern with the early high, and that's today's call.